Hello guys, so let's do Flowover and Missover options. Uh, let's say we have a data set. Name of the data set is trials. This data set has 4 variables and this data set has 7 observations. So this is the data set which we have built using this card statement. So this, let's say this we are going to read using in file. So how we would do that? We'll be doing that like this, in file, and then we will pass cards, right, like that. So within this in file we can use multiple options. So in those options we are doing as of now flowover and missover. So how the sys will read the lines, like let's say there are 4 variables: serial number, then center, trials, and then sub. So says read the data line by line. So for first variable it will read 1, second variable Apollo, third variable for trials phase 1, and then fourth variable sub it will read 78. Okay. After reading this, who will tell the says that jump to the next line? So that is done by flowover because it is not it doesn't go until unless we will tell the says that yes, first line is complete, now go to the second line. So that thing is doing by this flow over option. So we have to write flow over here like that. So this flow over option is used to do that thing only, that's it. But in says, because this is very obvious that we read the data line by line, so flowover is the inbuilt option in the says. We do not need to mention it externally like that. So even if you will not write this, it will work. So first let's write this and let's run this code. I'm going to run this code. Okay, so we have read all the lines, all the observations. We had 7 observations, so we have read 7 observations. All right, even if you will not write flow over, there would be again 7 observations. So as I told you that flow over option is already there, that will always be there whenever you will use in file. So this is by default, this is inbuilt actually, and this is by default. Okay, now let's understand this Missover option. Okay, so to understand that, let's say we are missing something over here. For example, in the fourth observation we are missing this thing. Okay, we haven't mentioned dot because dot was for a number variable to tell that says that there is something. Actually the dot is there. So if no dot, that means nothing is there, that thing is missing in that particular variable. Okay, so whenever says will read this data set or these observations one by one, whenever it will come on the fourth observation, it will read 4 in serial number, center, Apollo, and then trials phase 2, and then whenever it will go to sub to read the thing, it will not get anything. So what it will do, it will jump to the next line. Okay, and whenever it will jump to the next line, it will read the first thing which will come up. So what is coming up over there? The 5. So under sub it will read 5, and it will skip these things because this thing, this line, because it, as I told you that this says read the observations line by line, so it will read 5 over here under this fourth observation, and then because 5 is going up over there and there is no more variables to read further, so this rest of the line will be skipped, and then again after skipping that, 6 will be read under serial number and then care and then so on. Okay, so let's see what will happen. Okay, I did run this code. As I told you that on the fourth observation till phase it will read, and then sub was missing, and fifth the 5 has been taken from the next observation. Okay, so let's see over here. So fifth has been taken up over here, right? And then this names phase 2 and 79 has been skipped, and then after fourth, then 6 and 7. So if you will see, there are 6 observations while we had 7 observations in total. See, total 6 observation while we had 7 observations. So that names that line completely has been skipped. Okay, so that is the problem. To deal that problem, what we have to use? So to deal that problem, there is an option which we says that Missover. Okay, so if we will apply Missover now, it will handle what Missover do actually. Missover tells the SAS if something is missing, do not jump to the next line to read for that particular variable. Leave that blank as it is. So that is the work of the Missover. This is what Missover do. So let's see what will happen. So this thing is missing up over here after phase 2 in the fourth observation. So let's run this. I did run. Okay, you see here this thing was missing. So for number variable, it has put a dot automatically because we have used Missover option. But guys, remember one thing, Missover works only when there is missing thing at the end, not somewhere in middle. Okay, at the end, and continuous things can also be missing for that. For example, if this phase 2 is also missing, now we will say what will happen. No problem, it will, for example, after reading serial number 4, then center Apollo, then nothing is there for trials. So it, I mean, it just got that trial is missing, so it will not jump for the next thing. It will leave that entire thing as missing because Missover we have used. Okay, now let's see what will happen. Okay, all right, so you see it has been read successfully. Total 7 observations were there, so 7 observations we have gotten output, and this thing is missing, and this sub is also obviously it is also missing. So what will happen if something is missing in between? Let's see that thing. Okay, so let's keep it like that as it was earlier. All right, let's say in the second observation, this thing center, this variable is the middle variable, this thing is missing. So question can be that whether if this thing is missing, and will that be considered as in missing, and then again 89 will be read under sub, right? No, because as I told that Missover handles the missing things which are missing at the end, not in middle, not in start. So don't get confused with that. Missover deal or handle the things which are missing at the end of the observations. All right, so let's run this thing. All right, so see over here in the second observation, after reading, let's see the data first. After reading second under serial number, then center for names, trial. In the trials, see trial is missing over here, but it is size is not understanding that thing. Obviously, it will not understand. I told you that Missover will not be able to handle that. So what it will do? The 89 will be read under trials. Okay, and then sub, for sub nothing is there to read because 89 has already been read under trials. So what it will read under sub? Nothing, because nothing is there to read. All right, and that thing will be handled by Missover. That will be considered as an missing, that nothing is there to read. Okay, so this is how it is working, right? See 89 and 4 and 4 sub, nothing is there, and then next line will be read like that only. I mean, as used to be. All right, so that was about the Missover. Okay guys, so earlier we have done Missover. Now let's do Truncover option of in file. Truncover option is similar to Missover option, but it has only one advantage over the Missover. Okay, so let's remind what was the Missover. Missover was that, let's say we have this second, I mean we have two column data over here. In the first column, we can see Ram, Kamal. These are some names. The second column, we have state, and under state in the second line, this thing is missing. All right, end of the line is missing. So to handle that missing thing, uh, so that it cannot directly jump to the second, third line to read that thing in second line. That's why we use Missover. All right. So what is Truncover actually? Truncover is same. I mean, same to Missover, that it will do the same thing. But if this thing, like this thing, is shorter than what we are expecting, than the length, then it will not read that thing. Okay, you will understand this thing with the help of this example. For example, let's say I have taken this Ram, Kamal, this data under this my txt file. This is text file. Not, there is nothing. I just put all this thing. I copied this thing and put this thing under txt file and imported the txt file over here. That's it. Now that txt file I'm reading over here, right? I've given this path. You also can give this path by right clicking and getting this properties and copying this path. I given this path over here, right? And then I have given name. I'm expecting name length 9 and state length. I'm expecting this state length 20. Okay. So to handle this space thing, this is missing. I am just writing miss over. Okay. Let's see what will happen. Let's run this thing. You see, there is nothing coming up under state. Why? Because as I told you that we are expecting length of this 20. I mentioned 20. So what does that mean? Name length should be 9 and name this state length should be 20. I'm expecting this length 20. Okay. So this thing cannot be handled by Missover, right? If length is shorter than what we are expecting, that is the default behavior of says that it will not read that. So to overcome that thing, Truncover actually comes up in the picture. If you will read this, what Truncover actually do, let's read this. Okay, override the default behavior of the input statement when an input record is shorter. You see, you will read this line, you will understand that it actually override the default behavior of input statements when an input data record is shorter than the input statement expect. Okay, so it just override that behavior, right? Truncover, it also says that Truncover enables to read variable length records, right? It's unable to read variable length records are shorter than the input statement expect. All right, so this is what actually Truncover. If you will write Truncover over here and you will run it again. Okay, so it's reading the data correctly, even if these length is shorter than what we are expecting 20. Right, so that's the default behavior of the says that if that length is shorter, then it will not read that. Okay, if you will not write anything over here, then you will see you will not read anything accurately or correctly, right? See, only two observations while there are 1, 2, 3, 4 observations right over here. Let's see the result now. Why it is happening? See this. At the first place, it did read RAM. Okay, irrespective of this 9 thing, it will read the first thing, it will read, right? This is the default behavior of SAS. We cannot do anything. But when it will go for the second, it will check for the length 20. If its length shorter, it will not read that. Okay, then whatever is there in the second line, that will go up there on that, I mean under the state, irrespective of checking the length, right? Then nothing is there on that line left to read. And then this thing Rajkumar will, it will read in the second line, the first variable under name it will read, right? Then again it will check over here to read under state. It will check the Tamil Nadu, its length not 20, then it will not take it. So that's why it will directly go to Rahul, and Rahul thing will go up over here, right? And it will go till length 20. So it will try to read it 20. So that's why that Punjab thing come up over there. So this is how that works. So this is actually the work of Truncover. Truncover have only one example. Advantage, please remember this thing, that it helps in reading the shorter length as well. Thank you guys. Just run this. Okay, so it's reading correctly. Thank you. Hi guys, so let's understand about stopover option in file while reading the raw data. Okay, all right. So as I explained, Flowover in my earlier example, right, says by default jumps to the next line with the help of this Flowover in file option. So that is there by default. Okay, so here once the says will read this line, it will jump to this next line and so on until it will reach to the end of the data. All right, so that happens because of Flowover. So let's make a data set of this. We got the data set correctly. All right, let me put proc print as well. This is test data set. This is for, when I will run this, I will get everything result, which is why I have written that. All right. Okay. So let's say I am missing something over here in the second line. I'm missing this 200. What will happen? After reading first line, says automatically will jump to read the second line, right? The Kamal. And then for score, it will try to read the next thing. And it will not get the next thing because of Flowover. Then Ra will go there, right, underscore, and that character thing cannot go underscore. That's why it will give you the dot thing over there. So actually, and then 1200 wouldn't be read. All right, but that thing wouldn't show up into the error message, right? So let's see how it will come up. Okay, you see the 1200 is missing and data messed up totally, and even that thing is not being reflected directly into the log, right? But if you will see under note, you see here it's saying that error hit where on line number 2. So if you will understand with the help of this thing under note, that while reading the first line, what it did read Rahul and 1200. When it went on the second line, right over here, it tried to read Kamal and underscore, it read dot, and error actually come up over there, right? So actually that thing is not coming up in the directly under this error. Why? Because of that flowover thing, which this is how SAS behaves, right? To come up, to overcome this thing, SAS uh, gave us this stop over option. If you will write stop over here, then it will force the SAS that if something is happening like that, if some discrepancy in the data and it is changing the default behavior of reading the data, then it will highlight you that something went wrong. Okay, let's see what will happen. You see here the cross mark, and it's showing error, right? And it is clearly saying that input statement exceed record length, right? So it says that it's not reading it as per the length, right? It exceeds the record length. It's going somewhere else to read, to complete that thing, right? And it's showing in warning as well, right? So that actually helps in, right, clearly it is showing that exceed record length. Okay, in file cards option stopover. So actually stopover helps in debugging the code. Okay, and we generally use when we read a big data with the help of this in file. Stopover is very much important when we have to debug the things. Okay, so this is actually the purpose of this stopover. I hope you got it. Thank you guys. So, so guys, what Scanover? Let's understand what the Scanover word mean. So, Scanover means to scan something over some other things, right? So, Scanover means do filtration, do scanning of something. So, let's say there are 100 things. We have asked to scan some of the things throughout those 100 things. Means filter out some things throughout those things. So this is what actually Scanover do. So let's say we have this data, again labs data we have, and in the labs data, let's keep the data like this. Okay. So Scanover is in-file option, and but we do not use this Scanover option in the in-file. We directly use this Scanover thing under input directly. And how do we use that? We use that with this symbol at the rate, and then we tell that do the filtration based on what. So let's say uh, these are the observations. Apollo phase 1 A78 and the names. So what we are asking over here, we are asking to filter something based on this word care. And remember this thing is case sensitive. So what we are asking this as to read the data basis this scan thing. So read these lines basis this care. Wherever care find you find the care, read the line. Okay, so this is how it is used. So let's see first what will happen. Okay, I let me run this. I did run this. So yes, so wherever care is there, that thing would be read over here. So phase 3 56, and then phase 2 59, phase 3 56, phase 2 59, trial and sub. So next two variables has been read. Remember this thing, this Apollo names care, these things. So these things are not being read over here. So that's one drawback we can say that of this scan. We because of that we are not able to identify that phase 3 is for what, that is actually for care or not. Okay, so that is one drawback. And second thing that we have to remember that uh, the scanning thing on whatever thing you want to scan, you have to keep that at the first, in the very first, so that next things can be read. And whatever items are there, like one phase and 78, then phase 1's 89, so those two other things are there. For to handle those things, two variables should be over there, right? So this is how it works. uh, so how it is working, wherever it will look for the care in the line. So in the entire line it will look for the care. So in the Apollo it will look for the care. So care is not there, the entire thing will be skipped. Under this names phase 189, it will look for care. Care is not there, it will be skipped. Then it will jump to this line, third observation. Yes, it got care, so next two things will be read. So that's why, which is why 56, phase 3 56 has been read over there. So phase 3 56. Again, Apollo phase 2 34, no, it will not be read. Names phase 2 79, no, it will not be read. And care will come, yes, it will be read because care is there, and then next two things will be read over there. Remember, this thing will not be, wherever that thing will come up, the care is coming up over there, so that thing will not be read. Okay, so this is how Scanover works. Remember this thing, it we do not use it like this. However, we can mention this thing, but there is no use of mentioning this thing over here. Even if you will write it, it will work as it is working earlier. So let's see how it is working. I did run that. So same thing. And even if you will not write this scan over here, still it will work. So let's see. So see, same thing. So there is no use of having that. Which is why I said that, I mean, we cannot use it, or we generally do not use it under in file. We directly use that in the input. Okay, so this is how it works. One more thing, let me tell you that let's say this care is not here on the very first column. Let's say care is there. Okay, right? Okay, so let's see whether the care will be looked under the very first column or in the second column as well. So what, let's see what will happen. I did run. Oh, see, something is missing. So what happened? Let's see what happened. Then phase 356. So at first attempt it got it because as I told that it look for the thing line by line. In the entire line it will look for that. Okay, the care will be looked in the entire line, and wherever care it will find that that particular column will not be read. That particular column will not come up. Okay, so it got care over here, and then it skipped the column, and then it read phase 356, which is why phase 356 over here. Again, after that, in this line, in the fourth observation, no care. Again, in the fifth observation, it will get the care. Okay, it will get the care. So it will skip this thing, this column, and then 79. It will read the 79 over here under trial, under trial 79. So what left? Nothing's there after 79, and sub one variable still left and nothing is there. So what? It will jump to the next line. Again in next line, care thing. I mean, care is actually the character, and character cannot come up in this number. So that's why number variable, that's why dot is there. And this after that, this entire thing will be skipped, and then again it will jump to this. So nothing, no care is there. So actually you got it now. So actually what is the drawback and how it is working, the Scanover thing. So Scanover is nothing. Actually this is how we use the scan thing or Scanover uh, option, and it is hardly used in the SAS or in the reading the raw data. Okay, so try to just keep this thing in mind. So this is all about Scanover. Hi guys, so let's understand DLM and DSD. DLM stands for delimiter, DSD stands for delimiter sensitive data. So what is actually delimiter? Delimiter means to limit something, to tell the size that this is the limit. And when we use these two options, we use these two options when we have to read the raw data using infile and input. Okay, so we have an example over here. In this lab data set, we have 7 observations. So if you will see for those 4 variables, this data which we are giving as an input through this cards to this in file is being separated by space, right? And when we do run this code, data will go correctly under their variables. Let's run this. Let's see this. So data is coming up correctly, all the 7 observations. So question is how SAS is understanding that this space is the is something which is separating all the things and telling the SAS if space is there, then go this thing to that particular variable. If again one more space, then go to this particular variable. So that is actually being done based on this space. If space is coming up, consider that as an delimiter. So what we can conclude of this from this, that if space is there, that means that is the delimiter. So SAS have by default a delimiter space. Okay, so even if you will write DLM, so that's the option actually keyword like this space, then also it is the same thing. Okay, the same way it will read the data even if you will write that. So by default space is the delimiter in SAS. Okay, so that was about the DLM. So by default space is the delimiter. If you want to make some other thing as a delimiter, for example, instead of this space things are separated by comma, right? Then we have to give delimiter over here as in comma. So let me see if I have example of the things with comma. Okay, for example, let's say I have this thing over here, this example. In this example, data is separated by comma. Okay, yeah, data is separated by comma. So, and then we have to give comma over here under DLM. Let's run this. See, data is coming up correctly. So we have given comma as in delimiter. You can give any other thing as well. If you want to give hyphen, or you want to give ampersand, and your data is separated by, uh, let me replace, sorry, we replace this comma with dollar ampersand, then delimiter you have to give as an ampersand. Okay, now let's run this. Okay, you see data is coming up correctly. Even if there are other things as well, like if comma is also there and you want to make that as in delimiter, then also it will be considered. For example, if comma is coming up over here, right, and for example comma is coming up over here, if comma is coming up over here, then it will consider both the things as in delimiter. Let's try to run this thing. Okay, see data is coming up correctly, right? There can be multiple things over there, right? Okay, let me see if I have example. Okay, let's see, in this example I have multiple uh, separators over here. Hash is also there, dash, at the rate, comma, and this thing, percent, dollar, and this double quotation, and then space also I have taken. Like for example over here space is there, that will also be considered as a delimiter. Okay, so let's try to run this code. There are multiple delimiters. Okay, you see data is coming up correctly. So it can consider n number of things over here to be considered as an delimiter irrespective of any order. For example, it's not mandatory that hash should come first and then dash and at the rate. No, it can be. Okay. Mm, okay, we were here. So instead of hash, you can write hash over here, right? Like this. Then also it will be considered. I mean, it will read the data correctly. Okay, you see it's coming up. So that was all about DLM, delimiters, but it has a drawback over here. Let's understand that drawback, that if two consecutive things are over here, right, let's say, okay, let's understand this thing. Let's make it correct first. Okay, okay, so this is the data here. Delimiter is hyphen. Okay, it can be hyphen or it can be uh, let's make it instead of hyphen, comma, just for understanding. Okay, so instead of hyphen it's comma, let's say. All right, so let's make it correct. I mean, let's make it, if I mean let's try to run this. Data is coming up correctly. Okay, so data is coming up correctly. I was talking about the drawback of this DLM. If two consecutive commas are there, then I mean actually something is missing over here, right? Something is missing over here between two consecutive commas. Will DLM help to understand the says that yes, something is missing up over there? No, that's the drawback of DLM. Let's try to run this and see. 6 observations. Things messed up. What happened? These two consecutive commas has considered as a single comma by says, right? So that's why 2 went to serial number, and then two consecutive commas considered one comma, and that thing went to this, that phase one went to center, and then trials, right? So I mean, to avoid that thing, to overcome up on that, what we have to use, we have to use DST. So this is when we use DSTs along with the DLM. Okay, remember this thing. Do remember this thing. Okay, now you see that two consecutive things are there. If are there, then those have been considered as a missing. If two consecutive things are coming up, those as considered as a missing thing. Okay, so that's the actually benefit of DST, having, I mean, using DST along with the DLM. Okay, so when we can use DST, can we use DST without DLM? When we can use that? So we can use that when we have only comma as a delimiter. Okay, for example, we have a comma over here, right? For example, we have a comma over here, name. Will DST able to understand that comma has considered as a delimiter? Let's see. Yes, it's able to understand that. Okay, so no need to write DLM then. If something is coming up in single quote or double quote, will DST able to understand those things as a delimiter? I will say yes. Okay, let's see. Let's try to run this. Okay, you see, it's able to understand that thing. What if instead of comma, something is there? Let's say ampersand is there. Will DST able to understand that? I will say no. It will give the error. So what we can say on that? Yes, everything messed up now. 6 observations are there only. So what we can say that DST, if you are going to use DST only, then it will be able to understand comma and these single quote or double quote as an delimiter. Okay, so always remember this thing. Okay, if two consecutive things are there, if name is missing, will it be able to understand that thing that is missing directly? DST, let's see. Yes. Okay, so you got it. When to use DSD only, when to use DSD along with DLM, and when to use DLM. Okay, so this was about the DLM and DSD. I want to tell you two things for DSD, that DSD is used for comma and quotations, right? It is used for comma and quotations if you are going to use DSD only. DSD can handle consecutive delimiters as in missing values. If two consecutive things are there, like two commas are there, two dashes are there together, then it will consider those between those two things that something is missing between those two things, right? One more thing I want to tell you, that not only same kind of things, right? If two things, two different kind of things are there, for example, over here, instead of uh, hyphen, like for example, if dollar sign is there, so we two consecutive, I mean these two are not same, while that we can say that these two are delimiters and these two are together. So then if we are using DSD along with the DLM like that, here comma and then dollar along with this DSD, then also these two will be considered as in something is missing between those two. Let's try to run this. Okay, you see, it's not about that these two should be commas or these two should be hyphens. Same thing. No, no, not necessary. It can be, as I told you, that order can be anything. It can be like that as well. Here, comma, dollar, and dollar, comma, no problem. But those two are the delimiters actually. Okay, you see. Okay, so this was about the delimiter and this DST. So I hope you got that. I will post this data set as well for your use along with this.